My name is David. I'm 64 years old, and I'm not here to impress you. I'm here because I've lived long enough to see what time does when you underestimate it. I'm not successful enough to be admired. I'm not broken enough to be pitied. I'm just old enough to tell the truth without dressing it up. For most of my life, I believed I had time. Time to change. Time to decide. Time to become someone else later. I was wrong. This isn't motivation. This isn't inspiration. This is a warning from a man who waited and learned too late what waiting really costs. The biggest lie I believed wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, comfortable, reasonable. I'll do it later. Later when things settle down. Later when I feel more confident. Later when I have more money. Later when life isn't so complicated. Everyone around me believed it too. No one ever challenged it. No one ever said, "You don't have as much time as you think." They said, "You're still young." They said, "There's no rush." They said, "Be patient." So I waited. Waiting felt responsible. It felt mature. It felt like the smart thing to do. What no one tells you is that waiting isn't neutral. Waiting is a decision. Every time you choose later, you are choosing not now, not this year, not this version of yourself, not the life you secretly want. I didn't lose my future because I failed. I lost it because I believed I had time to delay. That lie followed me for decades, quietly shaping my life while I wasn't paying attention. When I was in my 20s, I wanted direction. I wanted someone to tell me who I was supposed to be. I wanted clarity. I wanted certainty before I moved. But I didn't feel ready. Everyone else seemed more confident, more sure. So I told myself I needed more time. I said, "I'm still young." So I stayed where I was. I stayed uncertain. I stayed comfortable. And the years passed. When I was in my 30s, I wanted stability. I wanted to feel grounded, to stop feeling like I was guessing my way through life, to feel like I had some control. But life got louder. Work demanded more. Bills piled up. People depended on me. I told myself, this isn't the right time. So I postponed the hard decisions. I postponed the uncomfortable conversations. I postponed choosing a different path. I thought waiting was temporary. And the years passed. When I was in my 40s, I wanted meaning. That's when something changed inside me. Not panic, not crisis, just a quiet awareness that I was drifting. I wanted work that felt honest, days that didn't blur together, a life that felt like it belonged to me. But I told myself, I'm already too far in, too invested, too committed, too late to start again. So I stayed. And the years passed. When I was 50, I wanted courage. By then, I could see the pattern. I knew I was delaying myself. I knew the voice telling me to change wasn't going away. But I told myself I should be grateful, that wanting more was selfish, that other people had it worse. So I ignored that voice again. And the years passed. Now I am 64. And I can tell you this without hesitation. Time does not slow down because you're unsure. It does not pause while you figure things out. It does not reward patience when patience is just fear in disguise. Time moves, quietly, relentlessly. The most painful regrets aren't dramatic failures. They're the moments you delayed until they were no longer possible. The conversations you meant to have someday. The risks you thought you'd take eventually. The life you kept postponing. One day later becomes never. And there is no announcement when that happens. That's how life slips away. Not through tragedy, not through disaster, but through delay. The moment that ended, my illusions didn't arrive the way movies portray it. There was no dramatic collapse, no shouting, no final argument that wrapped everything up neatly. It arrived quietly. I was sitting in a hospital hallway, staring at a floor I had walked across dozens of times before. the kind of place where time feels suspended yet cruelly precise. A nurse passed by. A phone vibrated in my hand. And then the doctor said the words I wasn't prepared to hear. Someone I loved was gone. Just like that. Not someday, not later, not after one more conversation. Gone. What shocked me wasn't only the loss. Loss I knew was inevitable. What shattered me was the realization that everything I had postponed stayed postponed forever. The conversations I thought I'd have when things were calmer. The apologies I assumed I could give when I felt ready. The gratitude I meant to express when life slowed down. There was no space left for any of it. I remember thinking, I'll call them tomorrow, then realizing tomorrow had just been erased. In that hallway, something uncomfortable surfaced, not grief alone, but clarity. I saw my life as it actually was, not as I had imagined it would become. I saw how often I had lived as if life was a rehearsal, as if the real version would begin later, once I felt more prepared, more confident, more certain. Standing there, I understood something I had avoided for decades. Life doesn't take things from you slowly to be kind. It waits. It waits until you're convinced you still have time, until you believe delay is harmless, until you think you can always fix things later, and then it closes a door you didn't realize was about to shut. There is no negotiation when that happens. No rescheduling. No second attempt. That day, I didn't just lose someone I loved. I lost the illusion that time was patient. I realized how many moments in my life were already unreachable. Not because I failed, but because I waited. I had treated time like a renewable resource, something that would always stretch to accommodate my hesitation. But time doesn't stretch. It ends. That hallway wasn't the worst place I've ever been, but it was the clearest. It stripped away every excuse I had ever used. It made something painfully obvious. Some doors don't close slowly. They shut. And you only hear the sound after it's too late to walk through. That was the day the truth finally settled in. Not loudly. Not all at once. It settled like weight. The truth is this: life is not waiting for you to be ready. It never was. Time doesn't care how reasonable your delays sound. It doesn't reward caution when caution is rooted in fear, and it doesn't pause while you gather courage. I spent most of my life believing I was being careful, responsible, patient. But what I was really doing was negotiating with time, assuming it would always be there to meet me halfway. It won't. The clarity that comes too late is the cruelest kind, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you can't go back. I didn't miss my chances because I was incapable. I missed them because I kept assuming there would be another opportunity, another year, another season, another version of myself who would finally feel ready. That version never arrived. What arrived instead was understanding, far later than I wanted. You don't get unlimited attempts. You don't get infinite patience from life. You get a window. And that window doesn't announce itself. It opens quietly, stays for a while, and closes without warning. Most people don't miss it because they're reckless. They miss it because they're waiting to feel confident, waiting to feel certain, waiting for the perfect conditions. I learned this truth too late to change certain things, too late to say some words, too late to choose some paths, but not too late to tell it honestly. If there's anything I know now, it's this: the cost of waiting is invisible until suddenly it isn't. And by then, the price is already paid. Now I'm going to speak to you directly, not as a teacher, not as someone who figured life out, but as a man who waited too long and understands the cost of that waiting. If you are listening to this and thinking, "This doesn't apply to me yet," that thought alone should worry you. That's exactly what I used to think. If you are waiting to feel ready before you act, stop. Readiness is not a prerequisite for change. It's a result of it. If you are waiting for confidence to arrive, understand this. Confidence is built by doing the thing you're avoiding, not by thinking about it longer. If you keep telling yourself, just one more year, you need to know something, that sentence has no end. 1 year becomes 3, 3 becomes 10, and suddenly, you're not chasing dreams anymore, you're explaining why you didn't. If there is a conversation you keep postponing because it feels uncomfortable, have it. Silence doesn't preserve relationships, it erodes them. If there is someone you love, and you assume they already know how you feel, tell them anyway. Life doesn't give credit for intentions that never became words. If there is a path you keep circling but never choosing, choose one. Even the wrong direction teaches you more than standing still. Waiting feels safe, but it quietly steals your life. I know, because I lived that way. I waited to be braver. I waited to be surer. I waited for permission I was never going to get. And time let me wait until it didn't. Time is not cruel, but it is indifferent. It doesn't punish you for hesitation. It simply moves on without you. You don't need everyone to understand your choices. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need certainty. You need honesty. Honesty about what you want. Honesty about what you're avoiding. Honesty about the fact that later is not guaranteed. If you are alive, if you are listening, if something in you feels unsettled right now, that's not fear. That's awareness. And awareness is the last gift time gives you before it starts taking things away. Don't negotiate with time. It never compromises. Act while the door is still open. Because one day, without warning, you'll realize that the thing you believed you could do someday is no longer available to you. And there is no regret heavier than that. At 64, I don't fear death the way I once did. What I fear is the quiet regret that comes from a life half lived, from words left unsaid, from choices delayed until they expired. Time doesn't take everything from you at once. It takes a little every day while you're busy waiting. And one day, you look back and realize what's gone isn't coming back. You still have time, but only if you treat it as fragile. Don't wait for a better moment. This is it. If this message reached you, don't let it stop with you. Share it with someone you care about, someone you love, someone you assume will always be there. Not to scare them, not to lecture them, just to remind them, gently, that time is precious, and saying things now is always better than wishing you had later, before it's too late.